act as if it's already done. That's how the successful think. They do not wait for confirmation from the world before they proceed. They do not hesitate, wondering if it's time. They do not ask for permission to believe in themselves. No, they decide. And then they move. They see in their minds a picture of their future, and they walk toward it as if it were already real, because in truth it is. You and I have been taught since childhood to base our actions on our surroundings, to respond to life rather than lead it. But the great achievers, the rare few who build extraordinary lives, reverse that order. They act not in reaction to the present, but in alignment with their vision. And that, my friend, makes all the difference. Before we go further, I want to pause and ask you to do something small yet powerful. If this message is already making you think, if it resonates in some quiet place within you, take a moment now to like this video and subscribe, not just for more content, but as a simple act of commitment. When you press that button, you're telling yourself, I'm ready to start thinking this way. Now let us go deeper. All progress begins in the mind. A man becomes what he thinks about. If his thoughts are rooted in doubt, fear, and hesitation, then so will be his results. But if his thoughts are shaped by vision, by belief, and by clarity of purpose, then no matter where he starts, he will rise. This is not a matter of positive thinking, it is a matter of cause and effect. The mind is the cause, the life is the effect. The successful understand this, and they use it. They think from the result, not toward it. They don't say, one day I'll be wealthy. They live and act now as someone who is responsible, focused, disciplined, and prepared. The very qualities of a wealthy man. The outcome then becomes inevitable. Imagine a young man who dreams of building a business. He studies, he plans, he waits. But in his mind, he still sees himself as the man who wants to start, not as the man who already has. Years pass and nothing happens. Now imagine another man who has no more money, no more time, no more advantages, but who sees himself clearly as a business owner. He moves quickly, not recklessly, but with a sense of internal certainty. He speaks with confidence. He takes risks. He shows up early. He expects results. And because of that mindset, opportunities begin to meet him. Which of the two do you think will succeed? It's not about circumstance. It never has been. It's about how you see yourself and whether that image is rooted in fear or in faith. This is the invisible divide between the masses and the few. Most people wait until they feel ready. They wait until they've earned the belief. But the successful, they start with the belief. And by acting on it, they earn the result. There is a power in acting as if, not pretending, not deceiving, but embodying, stepping into the role of who you are becoming, not who you have been. You want to become confident? Speak clearly, stand tall, and behave like someone who values his words. You want to be healthy? Eat, train, rest like the version of you that already is. You want to be successful? Then manage your days, your energy, your thoughts as someone who has already earned it. Because here's the truth. Nothing outside of you has to change before you begin. The change begins the moment you change your posture toward life, the moment you act as if the result is already set. A man who believes in his future moves differently. He walks with quiet power. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't need anyone to tell him that he's on the right track. He knows. He doesn't beg for signs from the universe. His life is the sign. His discipline is the sign. His clarity is the sign. You do not need to see the whole staircase before you take the first step. But you do need to step, and you must do so not as a question, but as a declaration. Every time you act like it's already done, you train your mind to align with that outcome. And the mind, once trained, will begin to spot the opportunities, notice the patterns, and dismiss the distractions that don't fit your vision. This is what psychologists call selective perception, but what the wise men of old called faith. Faith is not merely believing that something can happen. It is behaving in accordance with the assumption that it already has. Consider the farmer who plants a seed. He doesn't go back every day and dig it up to see if it's growing. No, he waters it. He protects it. He plans his harvest around it. Why? Because he knows that the law is in place. As he sows, so shall he reap. Why would you treat your goals with any less confidence? Your thoughts are the seeds. Your actions are the water. Your habits are the sunlight. And your results, those will come in due time, as surely as the harvest follows the sowing. Now you may ask, what if I act as if and fail? What if I believe and it doesn't happen? To that I say, it's not failure you should fear. It's hesitation. It's postponement. It's the slow erosion of your belief while you wait for a perfect moment that never arrives. No great man was ever made by waiting. Success is not given. It is constructed. And you begin building it the moment you decide to think like it's already yours. Act like it's already done. Because that's how the successful think. That's how they live. That's how they win. There's a subtle power in certainty. The kind of certainty that isn't loud or arrogant or showy, but calm. Rooted, quiet. It doesn't shout its dreams to the world or broadcast every intention. It simply begins. It moves forward with composure. It walks into a room with presence, not noise. And that presence comes from one thing: alignment. When your thoughts, actions, and identity are in harmony, when you act as if it's already done, people can feel it. They may not be able to explain it, but they respect it. Now let's consider why this principle is so transformative. You see, most people operate from what I'd call the if-then mindset. If I succeed, then I'll feel confident. If I get the opportunity, then I'll act like a professional. If I'm chosen, then I'll show up like I matter. But this way of thinking is backwards. It places your power outside of you. And the man who gives away his power will always remain stuck, frustrated, and waiting. The successful reverse the formula. They begin with the then. Then I'll feel confident. Good. Let me feel confident now, then I'll show up like a professional. Let me do that today. They understand that results don't come to the man who waits. They come to the man who prepares, to the man who believes, to the man who moves. There's an old saying that goes, success loves speed, but speed without direction is chaos, and direction without belief is hesitation. So the rare few who rise are those who combine belief with decisive movement. They act as if the decision is already made, not by the world, but by themselves. You must remember, the world responds to posture, not physical posture, though that matters too, but mental posture. A man who carries himself as if he has already built something of value is given more responsibility. A man who speaks as if his words matter is heard. A man who treats his ideas with respect is taken seriously. And all of that begins inside, not outside. This is why the principle of acting as if is so vital. It doesn't mean faking it. It means claiming it. It means stepping into the identity of the person who does the thing you've dreamed of. Not someday, but now. Before the applause, before the reward, before anyone else sees it. You see it, and that's enough. Now let me give you something practical to hold on to. Think of a goal you have. Not a vague desire, but a clear goal. Something meaningful, something specific. Now ask yourself, if this were already done, how would I behave? How would I speak? How would I dress? How would I treat my time? How would I respond to challenges? Now behave that way. When you don't need more time, you need a shift in identity. The moment you begin to carry yourself like the person who has already succeeded, you begin to magnetize everything required to fulfill that image. This is not magic. This is alignment. When the mind, the word, and the action all agree, life begins to move. Doors open, people notice, opportunities appear. But only when you first decide to live from the outcome, not toward it. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young speaker who dreamed of addressing thousands of people from a stage. He had no audience, no connections, no invitations. But every morning he'd put on his best suit, walk to a quiet room, and rehearse as if the crowd were already waiting. He'd speak with passion. He'd deliver as if the room were full. And in his mind it was, that mental rehearsal, repeated day after day, shaped his tone, his confidence, his delivery. And when the opportunity finally came, as it always does to those who prepare, he didn't flinch. He was ready. Because in truth, he had already delivered that speech 100 times. He had already become the man who belonged on that stage. That's what it means to act like it's already done. You don't wait for the world to catch up. You lead. Now this may challenge you. You may say, but I haven't earned it yet. I'd remind you, no one earns the result before becoming the person. The becoming is the earning, and the becoming starts with your choices today. Speak the way the successful version of you would speak. Think the way he would think. Prioritize the way he would prioritize. And slowly, quietly, the world will begin to reflect that image back to you. But it cannot begin until you do. Now think morbid. Toon me overthinkseindigst about wat last. On the trouble do, being tea or they take twids. The mind, you see, is fertile ground. It does not care what you plant, doubt or belief, fear or action. The harvest will come just the same. So why not plant conviction? Why not water it daily with discipline and focus? Because if you act like it's already done, the mind begins to adapt. It begins to look for proof of what you already believe. It begins to discard anything that doesn't align, and that's where the magic happens. Not in one big moment, but in 1,000 tiny decisions made by someone who already knows how the story ends. Which you must decide, and you must move. Because that's what the successful do. They don't wait to feel it, they act. They don't wait to be told, they decide. They don't hope, they know. And their knowing is born from a deep inner conviction that says, I will act like it's already done. Because it is. There is something extraordinary that happens when a person lives from conviction instead of circumstance. Life begins to reorganize itself around that belief. Not instantly, not always dramatically, but steadily, quietly, in ways both seen and unseen. Most people walk through life explaining their limits. They defend their inaction with facts. They describe their current situation as if it were their identity. But the successful, they do not argue for their limitations. They don't identify with what is. They live in the world of what will be. And so they carry themselves differently. They wake up with intention. They speak with purpose. They move with a kind of forward pull like gravity toward their vision. It is not arrogance, it is certainty. And certainty is a product of repeated thought aligned with repeated action. Over time, that combination builds a mindset that is immune to doubt. Not because doubt disappears, but because it no longer matters. When you act like it's already done, you don't need reassurance from the outside world. You create that reassurance from within. You don't look around to check if it's working, you trust the process because you've already seen the result in your mind. Now let me be clear, this isn't about fantasy. It isn't about pretending, it's about choosing the higher road. It's about deciding that your life will be lived on purpose, not by accident. When I say act like it's already done, I'm not asking you to fake success. I'm asking you to embody it, to model the internal state of the person you wish to become. Because action born from that state is what produces real change. Let's pause and reflect for a moment. Look back on your life. When were you at your best? When did you feel most clear, most focused, most powerful? I can almost guarantee it wasn't when you were reacting to fear. It wasn't when you were hesitating or waiting for someone to give you a signal. It was when you knew what needed to be done, and you did it. That clarity, that drive, it came from alignment, from belief, from a temporary sense of certainty that pulled you forward. What if you could live there more often? What if that state became your norm? You can make it your norm. You can train yourself to live from that state, just like the most successful people in the world do. And the first step, the simplest, most powerful step, is to ask yourself each day, if it were already done, what would I do today? And then do that. You see, action taken from fear is always limited. It's always guarded, always hesitant, always partial. But action taken from faith, it's full, it's clear, it's strong, it's magnetic. People sense it. Opportunities respond to it. Doors open for those who walk with purpose, not because the door was unlocked for them, but because they refused to believe it was ever closed. Let me give you another example. Imagine two people walking into a job interview. One says, I hope they like me. I hope I'm good enough. I'll try to give the right answers. The other walks in thinking, I'm here to bring value. I know what I offer. I belong in this room. Now, who do you think gets remembered? The one who acts as if it's already done, as if they already have the role, already carry the weight of responsibility, already walk in excellence. That posture creates a different energy, one that can't be ignored. This doesn't only apply to business. It applies to everything. Relationships, health, finance, creative work, spiritual growth. Whatever it is you seek to build, the foundation must be belief. But not passive belief, active belief. A belief that moves, that works, that speaks, that shows up even when no one is watching. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they never gave themselves permission to begin. They waited for certainty, for approval, for some kind of external green light. But the truth is, there is no green light. There's just a decision, and that decision must come from you. There's a reason we say faith without works is dead. It's not enough to hope. You must embody the hope. You must live the vision. You must become the result before you see it. This is what separates the dreamers from the doers, the wishers from the builders, the someday thinkers from the men and women who shape reality itself. And it all begins with a simple, powerful principle. Act like it's already done. Not someday. Not once you feel ready. Not after everything is perfect. Now. Because your life, your real life, begins the moment you stop waiting for proof and start walking in belief. It begins the moment you take full responsibility for the direction of your thoughts, the clarity of your goals, and the actions you take today, not tomorrow. So let me ask you, how would you carry yourself if you already knew you would succeed? Would you hesitate? Would you hide? Would you postpone? Or would you stand taller? Speak clearer. Walk with intention? You already know the answer. Now it's time to live the answer. The man who walks with belief is not walking alone. Even when the room is empty, even when the world is silent, he carries something within him that makes him unstoppable. It's not money, it's not privilege, it's not even talent, it's clarity. A quiet conviction that says, this is who I am becoming, this is already mine in spirit. Now I will align my life with it. You see, success doesn't begin when the world notices you. It begins long before that, in silence, in solitude, in the moments no one sees. When you wake up early, not because you have to, but because the person you're becoming would never sleep through their vision. When you study, not because of a deadline, but because mastery is part of who you are. When you speak with purpose, not to impress, but because your words are an extension of your character. This is the essence of acting like it's already done. And it's not a mindset reserved for the elite. It is available to anyone, including you, the moment you decide to stop measuring your potential by your present and start leading your present with your future. Because that's the key. Most people wait for results before they believe. But the greats, the rare few who rise above, they reverse that. They believe first, and that belief informs every move they make. When a man truly believes something is done, he behaves differently. He isn't rushed because he knows time is working with him, not against him. He isn't insecure because his worth is no longer up for negotiation. He isn't easily shaken because his roots are deep, and those roots are built on repetition, preparation, and personal responsibility. Let's pause here. Ask yourself this. Where in my life have I been waiting for permission to rise? Permission to speak with clarity. Permission to take my craft seriously. Permission to walk with purpose. You don't need that permission. You never did. What you need is to give yourself the authority to begin. Don't wait for someone to recognize your potential. Recognize it yourself. Don't wait for applause. Create the kind of daily excellence that earns it in time. Don't wait for everything to make sense. Begin moving, and the path will become clearer. It's not about having all the answers, it's about living as if you already know the destination, and letting that knowledge shape your actions. Now you may ask, but what if I act like it's already done and I fail? To that I say, failure is not the enemy. Delusion is, acting like it's already done does not mean ignoring reality. It means shaping it. It means showing up every day as the man or woman who already honors the result, who trains like it matters, who speaks like they believe, who works like their time is valuable. There's no pretending here. There's only preparation. And preparation is what separates the confident from the chaotic. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a man training for a marathon. The race is months away. No one is watching. No one is clapping. But he's out there at sunrise, putting in the miles. Why? Because he's not training to become a runner. He already is one. His actions are not a struggle to prove something. They are an expression of who he has already decided to be. Now take that image and apply it to your own goal. See yourself not as someone who is trying to succeed, but as someone who is already aligned with that success. What does that person do differently? How do they use their mornings? How do they speak in meetings? How do they walk into a room? That's the person you must begin acting like today. What? Because here's the truth. The world doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you prepare for, and your preparation reveals what you believe. That's why people sense energy. That's why some individuals walk into a room and shift the atmosphere without saying a word. They've been preparing in silence, they've been walking with a knowing, and that knowing is felt. You don't need to shout, you don't need to convince, you need to become. Act like it's already done. Not to impress, but to align. Because once you align, everything changes. Your priorities change, your habits change, your language changes. You begin moving like a person who knows their time is valuable. Their vision is clear and their direction is locked in. And when that happens, the world begins to reflect it. People trust those who trust themselves. Opportunities go to those who are ready. And readiness, real readiness, is not about perfection. It's about posture. It's about how you carry your intention through the day. It's about showing up with energy when no one is looking. It's about preparing like the stage is already set. It's about believing that your future is not something you hope for, it's something you live into, one decision at a time. That is the difference between a wandering life and a directed one. So, let me remind you again. The goal is not to act like someone you are not. The goal is to act like the version of you who is already living with purpose, already leading, already building, already becoming. Because when you start living that way, when your thoughts, words, and actions all point in the same direction, you'll find something powerful. You don't need motivation. You don't need luck. You don't need applause. You need alignment. And alignment begins the moment you choose to act as if it's already done. It's one thing to talk about belief. It's another to live from it. Anyone can speak of vision, of goals, of ambition, but the real test is in the details. The little moments, the quiet hours, the seemingly small choices that build or break the man you are becoming. This is where most people miss it. They wait for a grand opportunity, a spotlight, a big break. They want to feel inspired before they act. But life does not reward the man who waits. It rewards the one who moves in faith, the one who does what needs to be done before he's applauded for doing it. Let me ask you something. If the life you dreamed of was already yours, how would you start your morning? How would you handle distractions? How would you treat your health, your money, your time? Now look at today. Does it reflect that version of you? Because if it doesn't, that's your signal. Not to feel guilt, but to take ownership. To say, I'm not going to wait for the world to change before I show up as the man I already know I can be. That's what acting like it's already done means. You don't wait to be chosen. You choose yourself. You don't wait for the rewards to show up before you give your best. You give your best, and that's what unlocks the rewards. It's not arrogance, it's not fantasy. It's discipline. It's vision backed by action. A future backed by daily proof. Now here's the beauty of this principle. It works quietly. You don't need to announce your shift. You don't need to explain it. You just begin. One day your friends notice you're calmer, more focused. One day your habits begin to speak louder than your words. One day your results start to match your mindset. And the world says, what changed? But you'll already know. You changed the source. You stopped living from reaction and started living from vision. You stopped identifying with your past and started walking with your future in mind. Now let's go even deeper. Every day, life presents you with two paths. One that matches the old you, your comfort, your excuses, your limitations, and another that belongs to the version of you who has already arrived. The question is, which path are your small decisions reinforcing? You can say you want a great life. You can set the goals, write the vision, speak the affirmations, but until your actions are shaped by the belief that it's already yours, you'll remain in the waiting room of your own life. Because the door doesn't open when the world decides, it opens when you do. There's a law at work here, a simple one. You attract not what you wish for, but what you prepare for. And preparation is revealed in repetition, in what you're willing to do every single day, not when it's easy, but when it's silent. When there's no reward in sight, but you still show up. And that's the secret. The successful think it's already done. So they don't hesitate. They don't treat their goals as fragile ideas. They treat them as responsibilities, as certainties, And that sense of responsibility changes everything. A man who acts like his dreams are already real doesn't negotiate with laziness. He doesn't entertain distractions. He doesn't lower his standards to fit his current environment. He brings the future into the present, not with talk, but with action. And over time, that action creates momentum. That momentum builds belief. And belief shapes identity. Until one day, it's not something you have to think about. It's just who you are. And let me tell you, that's where freedom lives. Not in waiting, not in hoping, but in choosing. In saying, this is the man I have decided to become. And then behaving in full alignment with that decision. It won't always be easy, but it will always be clear. You'll have moments of doubt. That's normal. You're human. But those moments will no longer stop you because your actions are no longer driven by how you feel. They're driven by who you've already decided to be. And once you decide that, once you lock in that identity, your choices begin to flow. You don't wrestle with procrastination the same way. You don't chase motivation. You simply live in alignment. Every action you take from that place becomes a form of confirmation. A signal to your subconscious mind that yes, this is real. This is who I am now. That's how the successful think. But in life, that's how they live. They don't wait for signs, they become the sign. They don't ask for proof. They move as proof. They don't need to know when, they just need to know why. And their why is strong enough to carry them through every obstacle. So if you find yourself asking, when will I finally make it? Flip the question. Ask instead, if it were already done, how would I behave today? Then behave that way. Don't worry about the results just yet. Results are a byproduct. What matters is identity. Because once the identity is in place, the actions follow. And when the actions follow, the results are inevitable. So today, carry yourself as the person who has already arrived. Not someday. Not when it's easy. Not once you're sure. Now, because the longer you wait to become the person you are meant to be, the longer your life will wait to reflect it. Act like it's already done because that's what makes it real. There is a moment, a quiet, private moment in every successful life where the decision is made. Not a decision to try, not a decision to dabble, but a decision to become. To step fully into a future that hasn't yet arrived and live as if it has. This is not fantasy. It is the highest form of responsibility. Because when you act like it's already done, you begin to carry the weight of your vision. Not as a burden, but as an identity. You no longer ask if success is possible. You begin behaving as if it's already your duty. You stop seeking the right conditions. You start becoming the kind of person who thrives in any condition. That's what separates the few from the many. The few don't wait for life to hand them a reason. They create one. They look ahead, they lock in, and they move. They may be surrounded by average effort, small talk, and shallow habits, but they live as if they're already operating in a higher league. Because in their mind, they are. I've said it before, the mind is the cause and the life is the effect. The man who wants to change his life must first change his mind. And that change begins with assumption. The assumption that the goal is already achieved, that the result is already set, that the victory is already won, and now it's just a matter of walking it out. Let me remind you, the successful are not superhuman. They are simply people who've made different assumptions. They assume they are capable. They assume their time is valuable. They assume the work they do today matters. And those assumptions form habits, and those habits form results. Now here's something most people miss. When you act like it's already done, your timeline collapses. You're no longer pushing the dream farther into the future. You're pulling it closer to the present. The goal is no longer out there. It's here. It's now. You treat the day like a piece of the mission. You treat your time like the most valuable resource you have. And you treat your energy like an investment, not to be spent but to be directed. This is how powerful people operate. They are not casual with their lives. They are not loose with their focus. They do not entertain anything that pulls them out of alignment. And the world, consciously or not, respects that. You've felt it yourself. You can sense when someone walks in with clarity. They don't have to speak loudly. They don't have to convince you. Their posture, their eyes, their energy, it all says the same thing. I know where I'm going. That knowing is magnetic, but more than that, it's effective. It brings order to chaos. It creates progress in places where most people are still asking for permission to begin. And let me tell you, you don't need permission. You need conviction. You need to stop asking the world if you're allowed to rise, and start giving yourself the responsibility to do so. How? By living from the end. Think of your goal, the one that keeps calling to you. Now imagine that it's already complete. You've already reached it. The applause has already faded. The reward is already in your hands. Now ask yourself, what kind of person did I have to become to get here? Because that's the person you must begin acting like today. Success is not a destination. It's a reflection. A reflection of what you repeatedly do, but what you repeatedly believe, but what you repeatedly tolerate and expect. You can't cheat this. You can't skip the work. But what you can do is show up with the mindset of someone who is already there. Not to impress others, but to impress it upon your own nervous system. So your habits begin to match your vision. Your standards begin to rise. Your time becomes sacred. And slowly your life becomes something others admire, but something you built. You see, most people reverse the process. They wait for the money to appear before they feel confident. They wait for the relationship before they feel loved. They wait for success before they walk with purpose. But those things are not causes, they're effects. The real cause is internal. And when you act like it's already done, you stop chasing effects and start living from the cause. This is why some people seem to get lucky, because they were already ready. They were living in alignment. They weren't hoping for the opportunity, they were being the opportunity. And when life tested them, they didn't flinch, because they had already passed the test in private, through preparation, through consistency, through the small decisions that no one else saw. So I ask you now, are you acting like the person who already won? Or are you waiting for proof to begin? Because the truth is, your life will follow the answer to that question. Every day, with every decision, you are telling the world who you are. You are either reaffirming your past or reinforcing your future. You are either feeding your fear or your faith. You are either thinking from the result or about it. And those two approaches create two completely different lives. But only one leads to peace. Only one leads to power. Only one leads to the kind of life that reflects your highest self. So today I challenge you, stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to see results before you commit. Stop asking for signs. Become the sign. Wake up tomorrow and carry yourself like the man who's already arrived. Plan your day like it matters, because it does. Oui, pretty fortune, but the reprostim you, it does. Speak like your words carry weight, because they do. Work like your time is rare, because it is. Act like it's already done. And you'll find in time it always was. You've come this far. You've begun to understand the truth. The man who acts as if it's already done is not delusional. He is deliberate. He isn't hoping. He isn't gambling. He's not pretending to be something he's not. He is becoming, every single day, the man he has already chosen to be. That's what this entire journey is about. It's not a trick. It's not a technique. It's not about faking confidence or putting on a show. It's about embodiment. It's about deciding once and for all that you will no longer live from the shadows of your doubts, but from the certainty of your decision. Because at some point the decision has to be made. Do I continue waiting for the right moment? Or do I become the kind of person who creates the right moment? The successful, the builders, the leaders, the high performers, they aren't guessing. They aren't waiting for a breakthrough to give them permission. They act from a place of inner conviction that says, it's already mine. The moment I aligned my actions with my vision, it began. There's a quiet confidence in that mindset, a stillness, a power that doesn't need to be loud to be felt. You start to carry yourself differently. You stop looking for shortcuts. You begin to honor the process because you've already claimed the result. And this is the great paradox of life. The moment you stop chasing is the moment it begins to flow. Not because you gave up, but because you aligned. You no longer act out of desperation, you act out of identity. This is why repetition matters, because repetition builds belief, and belief builds behavior, and behavior builds results. And then, without realizing it, you've become the person you once hoped to be. All by acting like it was already true. Let's return to the principle once more. Act like it's already done. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But it's one of the most powerful mental shifts you will ever make. Because when you act like it's already done, your energy shifts. You're not begging. You're not doubting. You're not throwing darts in the dark. You're moving with precision. You start speaking to people differently. You start treating time with more urgency. You begin designing your day with more purpose, because every decision now echoes with the weight of a man who has something to protect. His mission, his future, his character. No more drifting. You rise early, not because someone told you to, but because your vision demands it. You eat with discipline, not out of vanity, but because your body is the vessel for your purpose. You speak with clarity, not for approval, but because your words are extensions of your belief. You no longer ask, will it work? You ask, what must I do to honor the man I've already decided to become? That shift changes everything, because identity is what lasts. Tactics come and go, routines evolve, but when you become someone new, when you operate from the place of already having achieved, you build a foundation no storm can shake. So let me ask you again. If the success was already guaranteed, if the life you want was already built, if the version of you who has everything you desire was already living today, how would you behave? Would you walk slowly? Would you hesitate? Would you wait for others to validate you? Or would you rise with certainty, knowing that every step you take is building something real? The answer is within you. You already know how that man behaves. You've seen him in glimpses. You've felt him. He's in the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. He's in the focus that hits you when you stop lying to yourself. He's in the strength you show when you say no to what you used to tolerate. That's the man you're becoming. That's the life you're shaping. And now the choice is simple. Bring that future into this moment with action, with presence, with integrity. Don't wait for another year to pass. Don't wait for someone else to crown you. Crown yourself with discipline, with decisiveness, with consistency. With every day, you have a choice. Reinforce the past or live from the future. The successful choose their future and live it now. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to see the whole path. You only need to see the next step and take it with the confidence of a man who already knows where it leads. You've heard this phrase before, walk by faith, not by sight. This is what it means. It means trusting the vision before the evidence. It means acting from belief, not waiting for it. It means leading yourself first so that others may follow. So this is where I leave you, not with a final answer, but with a challenge. Wake up tomorrow and act like it's already done. Not for show, not to impress, but because you finally accepted the truth, it is. It always has been. And there always has been. What always has been performs. It was waiting for you to catch up, not in effort, but in identity. And now the only thing left to do is live from that identity. Every word, every habit, every step, every breath. Success doesn't begin the day they applaud you. It begins the day you no longer need them to. You're ready now. So go and live like it's already yours. And if this message resonated with you, if it reminded you of who you truly are, share it. Let it ripple outward. Let someone else hear the voice that awakens something in you. Because the world doesn't just need more noise. It needs more people who've decided to become what they were called to be.